ಮದುವೆ ಎನ್ನುವುದು ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ವಿಷಯವಾಗಿದೆ. ಚಿನಿವಾ ಅಚುಂಬೆ ಬರೆದ ಈ ಕಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೈಜೀರಿಯಾದ ಜನರ ನಂಬಿಕೆಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯಗಳನ್ನು ವಿವರಿಸಲಾಗಿದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಯ ಜನರು ಇಬೋ ಬುಡಕಟ್ಟಿನ ನಿವಾಸಿಗಳಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನೆನೆ NENE ಮತ್ತು ನೆನೆಮಿಕಾ NNAEMEKA ನೆನೆಮಿಕಾ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಪರಸ್ಪರ ಪ್ರೇಮಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದರು. ನೆನೆ ಎಂಬುವವಳು ಇಬೋ ಜನಾಂಗದವಳಲ್ಲ, ಆದರೆ ಅವಳ ಪ್ರಿಯತಮನು ಇಬೋ ಜನಾಂಗದವನು. ಇವರಿಬ್ಬರೂ ಮದುವೆಯಾಗುವ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದರು. ನೆನೆಮಿಕಾ ತಂದೆ ಓಕೆಕೆ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯಸ್ಥ ಮನುಷ್ಯ. ಆತನು ತನ್ನ ಮಗನಿಗಾಗಿ ತನ್ನ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಒಬ್ಬ ಯುವತಿಯನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದನು. ಅವಳು ಉಗಿಯಾ ನೇವೆಕ್. ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಆ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯಗಳು ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದವು ಮತ್ತು ಅವಳು ಕ್ರಿಶ್ಚಿಯನ್ ಸಮುದಾಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದಳು. ಆದರೆ ಅವಳನ್ನು ಮದುವೆಯಾಗುವ ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನು ನೆನೆಮಿಕಾ ಮಾಡಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ದಿನ ತನ್ನ ತಂದೆ ಹತ್ತಿರ ನೆನೆಮಿಕಾ ಬಂದು ತನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಸ್ತಾಪ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಆತನ ತಂದೆಗೆ ಒಪ್ಪಿಗೆ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಏಕೆಂದರೆ ಬರುವ ಸೊಸೆ ಇಬೋ ಜನಾಂಗಕ್ಕೆ ಸೇರಿದವರಲ್ಲ. ಇದಲ್ಲದೆ ಆ ಊರಿನ ಜನರೆಲ್ಲ ನೆನೆಮಿಕಾನನ್ನೇ ಬೈಯುತ್ತಾರೆ. ನೆನೆಮಿಕಾ ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ಗಮನಿಸದೆ ಹೊರಟು ಬಿಡುತ್ತಾನೆ ಮತ್ತು ನೆನೆಯುವಳನ್ನು ಮದುವೆಯಾಗಿ ಬಿಡುತ್ತಾನೆ. ತನ್ನ ತಂದೆಗೆ ತನ್ನ ಮದುವೆ ಭಾವಚಿತ್ರವನ್ನು ಕಳಿಸಿಕೊಡುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಆಗ ತಂದೆಯು ತನ್ನ ಸೊಸೆ ಇರುವ ಚಿತ್ರವನ್ನು ಹರಿದು ಹಾಕಿ ಮಗನಿರುವ ಭಾವಚಿತ್ರವನ್ನು ಮರಳಿ ಕಳಿಸುತ್ತಾನೆ. ತಂದೆ ಮಗನಿಗೆ ಸಂಪರ್ಕವೇ ಉಳಿಯುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇತ್ತ ಕಡೆ ನೆನೆ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಹೆಸರು ಗಳಿಸುತ್ತಾಳೆ. ತನ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನರನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾಳೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾಳೆ. ಹೀಗೆ ದಿನಗಳು ಕಳೆದು ಬಿಡುತ್ತವೆ. 8 ವರ್ಷಗಳು ಗತಿಸಿದ ನಂತರ ಸೊಸೆಯು ಮಾವನಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಪತ್ರವನ್ನು ಬರೆಯುತ್ತಾಳೆ. ಆ ಪತ್ರವು ಹೀಗಿದೆ: ನನಗೆ 2 ಮಕ್ಕಳಾಗಿವೆ. ಅವರು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳುತ್ತಿರುತ್ತಾರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನೋಡುವ ತವಕದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆದರೆ ನೀವು ಅವರನ್ನು ಅನುಮತಿಸುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಎಂಬ ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಇದೆ. ಆದರೂ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಬೇಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೇನೆ, ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನು ನಿಮ್ಮ 2 ಮೊಮ್ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು ಕರೆದುಕೊಂಡು ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನೋಡುವ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡಿ. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇರುತ್ತೇನೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಓಕೆಕೆಗೆ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಪರಿವರ್ತನೆ ಮಾಡಿದವು. ಮೊಮ್ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು ಕಾಣುವ ತವಕ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಯಿತು. ಕಿಟಕಿಯ ಕಡೆಗೆ ನಿಂತು ವಿಚಾರಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಆಕಾಶದೆಡೆಗೆ ಗಮನ ಕೊಡುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕವಿದ ಮೋಡಗಳು ಮಳೆಯನ್ನು ಸುರಿಸುತ್ತವೆ. ಅದರಂತೆಯೇ ಅವನಲ್ಲಿದ್ದ ಜನಾಂಗೀಯ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯಗಳು ಕರಿ ಮುಗಿಲು ಮಳೆ ಸುರಿದಂತೆ ತಿಳಿಯಾಗುತ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಹೊಸ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಅಂಕುರವಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಕಟ್ಟಿಬದ್ಧ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯಗಳು ಗೌಣವಾಗುತ್ತಾ ಬರುತ್ತವೆ. ಅಂದು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಆತನಿಗೆ ನಿದ್ರೆಯೇ ಬರುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅನೇಕ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು ಅವನ ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಮದುವೆ ಎಂಬುದು ಸ್ವಂತ ವಿಚಾರ ಮತ್ತು ಮನಸ್ಸುಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಮಿಲನ ಎಂದು ತಿಳಿದುಕೊಂಡು ತನ್ನ ಮೊಮ್ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಮಿಲನಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ದಾರಿ ಕಾಯುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಇದು ಕನ್ನಡದ ಮ್ಯಾರೇಜ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಅಫೇರ್ ಬೈ ಚಿನು ಅಚೆಬೆ. Summary of Marriage is a Private Affair by Chinua Achebe. In Marriage is a Private Affair by Chinua Achebe. We have the theme of modernity, traditional, control, conflict, stubbornness, gender roles, independence, change, and remorse. Taken from his Girls at War and other stories collection. The story is narrated in the third person by an unnamed narrator, and from the beginning of the story, the render the reader realizes that Achebe Achube maybe explored the theme of modernity and traditional. Though both Nameka and Neni live in Lagos, a modern city of Nigeria, Nemeka is very much aware of importance of traditional, particularly when it comes to his father Okeki, who has arranged for Nameka to marry a girl from his village, despite the fact that Nameka is due to marry Nene. If anything, there is a sense of conflict between both father and son, with Nameka following a more modern path to marriage, and rather than having a wife chosen from him by his father, prefers instead to choose who he is to marry, something that is lost on Okeki, who refers to follow the traditional values that are held by those in the village. There is also sense of Nanmeka wishes to control his own life and destiny rather than following the traditions that his father abides to, something that Okeki does not understand or seems to refuse to understand. Such is the depth of his adherence to tradition. Throughout the story, Okeki also shows signs of being stubborn, refusing to even acknowledge Nani either before or after she marries Nenmeka. So deep is his dislike for Nani that he returns the wedding photo sent to him by Nenmeka with Nani's image removed from the photograph. Symbolically, this may be important as it suggests that Okeki does not give any recognition to Nani. As far as he is concerned, she does not exist and he is not Nanmeka's wife, which would further highlight to the reader just how important tradition is to Okeki. Rather than seeing his son happy, he remains rooted to tradition. It may also be significant that some of the other men in the village suggest that Nanmaika should see one of the native doctors, as this would also further play on the theme of tradition. The fact that the women of the village who live in Logos are overly polite to Neni may also be important, as it suggests that are deliberately alienating Neni, and if anything it would suggest that the women believe that Neni is not one of them. What is the important What is also interesting about this story is the role that women play in the village. Ugoi is chosen by Okeke to marry Nanmeka. She is given no option and is following dictate of his father and Okoki. Also, there is no mention of Okiki having a wife of or Nanmeka. having a mother. This may be deliberate, as Achebe could be suggesting that rather than Okeke being a widower, his wife has no input like Ogoi. In essence, the women of the village are silent. The only woman in the story who has an independent voice is Neni, and she does not live in the village. In essence, Achebe could be suggested that just as Okeke wants to control who Nanmeka's marries, likewise the women who live in the village are also being controlled by the men in the village. No equality may exist between male and female within the village. The reality being that life in the village may revolve around traditional gender roles, with the male being dominant. Whereas in Logos, Neni as mentioned as her own voice and is not hindered by Nanmeka. She is allowed to express herself, something that becomes clearer to the reader through Neni's letter writing to Okeke. The end of the story is also interesting that Achebe appears to be exploring the theme of change and remorse. When Okeke discovers that he was two grandchildren, his view of Nanmeka and Neni's marriage changes dramatically. No longer he is against the marriage, and it is noticeable that Okeke begins to fear that his isolation of Neni's has resulted in him also shutting out his grandchildren from his life. It may also be symbolically significant that it is raining when Okeke begins to change his opinion on Nanmeka's and Neni's marriage. Quite often in literature, a writer will use the rain as a symbolism for change or renewal, and this seems to be very much in case of the story. The fact that Achube mentions in the final line of the story that Okeke feels remorse may also be important, as it suggests that not only has Okeke's opinion of Nanmeka and Neni's marriage changed, but Okoki may also be conscious that he has been wrong, that his own stubbornness and traditional view on marriage has resulted in him alienating his son Neni and his two grandchildren. At the end of this story, there is a sense that not only has Okoki changed his views on Nanmeka and Neni's marriage, but he may also have changed a person. This is the summary of marriage is a private affair.